you. They just want to you. Most men don't like their wives. Most men don't like their girlfriends. Most men don't even like the girl they're going to sleep with tonight.
Who's we? I love my girlfriend.
Got your daddy cuffed up like he undercover. Crop top, low waist, tiny titties in your face. Drop top, big subs. I'm like Nicki super bass. Got your windows fogged up, cause I'm hot like Nelly. I know what you want, so get it.
We should feed the poor. But where's the funding gonna come from? The rich? But they earned it. Healthcare shouldn't be a for-profit industry. Be realistic. What's the next step? We should dismantle capitalism. We should abolish the eternal profit motive and the principle of infinite accumulation in a world of finite resources. Instead, we should have socialism. But what's the end goal? A better question is, what's the end goal now? What's the end goal of capitalism? The end of organized human life as we know it? Look, I don't like capitalism, but communism is not the answer. Well, being that capitalism is the private ownership of public resources and the exploitation of labor, and being that capitalism is heading us into the sixth mass extinction event, and being that communism is the antithesis of the social organization of capitalism, communism is the only answer. That sounds uncomfortable.
I've been getting comments like this for years. Oh, what about your family legacy? Or what about your family bloodline? Why in the Kentucky Fried Fuck are you bothering me? And then some people are more explicit. They'll say things like I'm committing white genocide as if that's a thing. Or my personal favorite, that I'm a race traitor. Bro, the last race I was involved with was in 4th grade track and field. You know what I took home? A participation ribbon. I am not leading any race. Leave me out of this. Someone slid into my DMs like 5 or 6 days ago. They said, I bet you're disappointed your child doesn't look like you. Bro, my daughter has the same giant-ass forehead, the same giant-ass big toes, the same cheekbones. My daughter looks like 50% me and 50% my wife. What this person really meant was, aren't you disappointed your daughter doesn't have the same white skin as you do? As if that's going to have any bearing whatsoever on how much I love my daughter. People are so filled with hate, not just at the fact that I'm in a relationship with my wife, but that I'm so proud to be in a relationship with her. And I've been getting this for our entire relationship. For the last 14 years, I am exhausted. And here's the thing. 99% of the comments I get on this channel are overwhelmingly supportive, full of positivity. People get it. We joke on this channel about the awkwardness of relationships, things we can all relate to, silliness. But there's that 1% of people that just wants to troll. It is exhausting. And maybe you've seen my face before on this app. You don't follow me. We would love to have you over here. It's a lot of fun. If you're not going to follow, do the absolute bare minimum. And when you see bullshit like this in person or online, call it out for what it is. Foolishness.
Sugar is like the inside filling of a donut. You can't tell what's on the inside just by looking at it.
Except donuts don't have genitalia or chromosomes or the ability to reproduce or basically anything else that relates to being a human being. You can have a chocolate donut, pretend to be a strawberry donut, maybe even has strawberry filling, but it's still a chocolate donut.
You literally just proved yourself in your own argument. If you take away everything from a chocolate donut, it's chocolate frosting, chocolate filling, replaced with strawberry icing and strawberry filling, how is it still a chocolate donut? It tastes like a strawberry donut, it looks like a strawberry donut, it has all the same features and characteristics of a strawberry donut. How is it not a strawberry donut? Are you trying to say that it has the male's soul or something? Why are you using an argument of souls and spirituality in an argument about biology? Also, gender is a set of roles and expectations. It has nothing to do with your genitalia.
Gender has a lot to do with the body that you're born in, and gender is directly connected to your biological sex.
Gender is not connected to your body's biology. Can you look into your body and find bisexual DNA? Can gender be inherited from your parents? Can gender be empirically measured or found at all? No. Again, it's a set of roles and expectations. And while those roles and expectations are loosely connected to sex, it's not in the same body composition, biological way that you're talking about.
Who we are and all this stuff because of how we feel. Let's actually just learn to love ourselves, learn to love the bodies that we're born in.
You say to be happy in your own body, but when someone tries to change themselves in order to do that, all of a sudden, no, you can't change yourself. You just gotta accept it and move on. Do you need to change yourself to be happy? You're just gonna have to be depressed your whole life. Sorry, buddy. That's it. Call me for more. I'm out.
In the 1800s, African women were required to keep their hair covered in head wraps, except on Sundays, when some could remove the wrap and style their hair for church. When left with nothing but their spirit, resilience shone through. Butter and other household items were used to moisturize and condition. With no combs or brushes available, they'd use wool carding tools to comb through tangles. It wasn't much, but it was one little moment when they could feel human again. They'd even use bacon grease for hair care and protective styling. If our hair could talk, it would tell you a story of power. There's no bad texture. Our coils hold the DNA of survivors. Be proud. Be bold.
Hi, are you a pro-choicer that likes to accuse pro-lifers like me of controlling women's bodies? Perfect, let's chat. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I do not care what you do with your bodies. You can shave your head bald, tattoo your forehead, cut off your left pinky toe. I could not care less because that is your body, your choice. You want to know what's not a part of your body though? A preborn child. A preborn child has their own separate body. They have their own fingers, their own toes, their own heartbeat, their own separate DNA. If a preborn child were a part of a woman's body, that would mean that when a pregnant woman is pregnant with a little boy, she has a penis, which doesn't make any sense. Since a preborn child isn't a part of a woman's body, she does not get the choice to dismember their body in the womb. I support bodily autonomy, and bodily autonomy begins at fertilization. No preborn child ever consents to being violently killed in the womb.
So then remove it. Remove the fetus then. It's a win-win for everybody. But I'm gonna guess that you want the person to go through with the entire pregnancy, and that means you do in fact care what they do with their bodies, because that involves them using their bodies, doesn't it? Also, not sure if you know this, girly pop, but fetuses can't consent to anything. You're right, they can't consent to an abortion, and they can't even consent to being conceived or being brought into this world. But I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say that you don't actually care about consent. Because if you did, you wouldn't be pro-life. If you cared about autonomy, you also wouldn't be pro-life.
Cheer the fuck up, you beautiful loser. Sincerely signed, you from the future.
No, I was just thinking. Every person, whether little or big, is a human being. And because we are human, there are many things that are alike about all of us. For instance, we all need to be loved. Everybody does. Every person that you see in this world needs to be loved. And the marvelous thing about being human is that while we're very much alike, each one of us is very different too. Isn't Isn't it great that we can care about one another the way we do? It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair. But it's you I like. The way you are right now. The way down deep inside you. Not the things that hide you. Not your toys. They're just beside you. But it's you I like. Every part of you. Your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you, it's you I like. The you that lives inside the you that people see is a very special person. And I'm glad to know that you're you, and nobody else is exactly like you, and never will be.
I got deported by 6. I got sued by 6. I got burned by 6. I got bombed by 6.
One of the sadder parts about being neurodivergent is how early on the shame sets in. Children should just be able to be children, but I know that me and many others discovered that there was something different about them when they were fairly young. By being bullied, by being laughed at, by being the butt of the joke when you didn't realize you were, by doing something that you didn't realize was funny but now everyone's laughing. By having adults tell you, don't do that, that's not normal, you need to be more normal. We can't do things that way, that's just not the way people do things. And you know, you'd think that the things that we needed and the things we were asking for were like these huge, hard to give things. When in reality it was silly things like you needed to fidget, or you needed to spin, or you needed to have more sleep than your peers. You needed someone to explain the joke. You needed someone to not touch you when you asked them not to. You needed someone to explain why what you did was funny. You needed someone to see the struggles you were having and to realize that you were having a harder time than you needed to, and then to take you to a doctor. And to fight for you to get diagnosed until you did. And most of us did not have that. And you may not know me, or you may only know me through the screen, but I would just like to say I'm sorry. Because I know that many of us have apologies that we will never receive that would have been really nice to hear. So I'm sorry that people didn't understand and that people didn't give you the things that you needed. There is nothing bad about the way that you are, the way that you function. I see how hard life is for you sometimes. And I'm sorry that so many of those things would be such an easy fix if people would just look at you and see that you are a beautiful, wonderful, whole human being who deserves just as much love and accommodations as anyone else. So here's to us as we try to unlearn that shame and try to become ourselves in a world that would rather us be anything else. I see you trying, I see you failing, I see you succeeding, and all of it is wonderful and lovely. You're doing a good job. I'm proud of you.
White niceness as a tool of white supremacy. Did you know that most white people have mastered the art of niceness? It's 100% fake, phony, and disingenuous. Let me explain. It's a conditional niceness based on how well you perform for, coddle, and pander to whiteness, white supremacy, and white people. Basically, as long as you don't make them feel uncomfortable, don't mention white supremacy culture, don't challenge them in any way, call them out on harmful behavior, or talk about racism, they'll perform this fake niceness for you. But as soon as you break the code of niceness, you better watch out. The white tears, harassment, abuse, defensiveness, name-calling, threats, calling the police on you, and making false accusations against you, to name a few, will be thrown at you almost immediately. The problem is, many white people have been taught to weaponize niceness as a tool of white supremacy. You mask your anti-black racism with niceness because you want people to think that you're a good person and that you can never be racist because you're so nice. Lies. Another way you weaponize niceness is by making anyone or anything that is not nice, according to white supremacist culture standards, your ultimate enemy. So, of course, talking about racism is considered not nice in white supremacy culture. As a result, you think you're entitled to attack, harass, and gaslight black people who speak out against racism because we're not being nice and we're making you feel uncomfortable. Never mind how uncomfortable being the target of anti-black and systemic racism and discrimination is. Meanwhile, the harmful, dangerous, and deadly anti-black racism that you're trying to mask with your niceness is doing an incredible amount of damage and harm to the black people around you. So I have some not so nice news for you. Anti-black racism is not nice. Systemic racism is not nice. White supremacy is not nice. Pretending like they don't exist is not nice. Also, there's no nice way to talk about racism or any other form of abuse or oppression. Deal with it and do better. Your niceness is actually not nice at all. It's negative, negligent, and neglectful. If you are a white person who is genuinely kind and doesn't have a distasteful, defensive, and denial-driven meltdown when a black person talks about the pain of being the target of anti-black and systemic racism, thank you. Please continue to speak up and educate yourself so that you can help your white counterparts become an active part of the solution instead of a passive part of the problem. Anti-racism education is the key that will unlock the door to your self-awareness, compassion, and a deeper understanding of just how insidious anti-black racism and systemic racism truly are. If you're ready to learn more so that you will know better and do better, go to the link in my bio and invest in anti-racism education today. No more excuses.
I decree today that life is simply taking and not giving. England is mine, it owes me a living. But ask me why and I'll spit in your eye.
Yeah, but autistic people have a really hard time communicating. I don't. I just have a hard time being understood. It's the same thing. Is it? Yeah, if someone doesn't understand you, it's because you didn't communicate it well. Or is it because they suck at listening? I mean, it could be both. And yes, it could be because I'm not a great communicator. But it could also just be because someone else is not great at, comprehension. We're not all Einsteins out here, you know what I mean? It just seems kind of convenient to assume that the reason someone else doesn't understand you is their fault. Not any more than assuming the reason that you don't understand them is their fault. So whose fault is it? It doesn't have to be anyone's fault. What is with this obsession? But it also could be both. I'm just saying that communication relies at least a little bit on the ability of the listener too. So all people that don't understand you are just stupid. Didn't say anything about being stupid. But they're not all brilliant either. So what are you saying? I'm saying that the way society often describes things is very different than the way they feel when you experience them. Which is why someone can find a symptom unrelatable, even though it applies to them more than they could ever know. Because symptoms are often described as if they're from the first person perspective of the experiencer, even though they're often from the perspective of the observer. Like what? Like how we struggle to communicate. You don't think that you have a hard time with that. I've come to realize that I do, but not because I find it difficult to find words and form thoughts, but because I have so many that most people either can't or won't keep up or stick around while I'm explaining myself. But what about all those times when you're about to have a meltdown and you literally can't find words? Well, by that time, it's actually probably because I've explained myself a million times, and that's actually why I can't find the words in that moment, because I'm so emotionally overwhelmed with big feelings. Which is not really fair, because let's be honest, even non-autistic people kind of suck at communicating when they're at their wits' end, in the middle of big feelings, you know? I don't ever have trouble finding the right word. No, you just have trouble controlling the wrong ones. What? Nothing, I'm just saying that there's a big difference between struggling to communicate and struggling to be understood. And as an overthinker, that's one of the main reasons I refuse to believe that I was autistic. The biggest way being autistic has affected my life is being hyperverbal and hyperlexic. Spent my whole life over-communicating and over-explaining, which ironically is just as ineffective at not communicating at all. So what do you think would have been a more relatable or accurate description of the symptom? Often has trouble being understood. But not everyone's hyperverbal, and some autistic people are even nonverbal. Are you just forgetting about them? Just because a person is nonverbal doesn't automatically mean they suck at communicating. Even with or without a device, there's plenty of ways that we communicate without using words, without speaking. Just because family members don't always pick up on it doesn't mean that the autistic person isn't being intentional or expressing themselves exactly the way they mean to. You clearly haven't been around any nonverbal, non-speaking, high support needs autistic people, because if you were, you'd be aware of what an exhausting and devastating daily struggle it is to figure out what these people need. Just because sometimes things sound like unintelligible gibberish to us doesn't mean it's not a language to them. I'm not saying it's not a struggle. Every autistic experience is different. Most of these instances that you're bringing up were examples of people who self-diagnosis doesn't even really apply to. But we now know that people who society never even dreamed of being autistic actually are and have been, because they're so high masking. So for people on that particular journey of self-discovery, the phrasing becomes more and more important, because the qualifier then is about how something feels, not how something seems from outside of the experience. Hello?
Let's be totally honest. One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
Let's be totally honest. By the time I'm done with this video, he should be legally barred from ever using the word honest ever again. Since we're from the same city and around the same age, I think I should introduce myself in the downright worst way possible. Let's begin.
For example, last month in Georgia, a black man shot and killed 4 elderly white people. The town it happened in hadn't seen a single homicide since 2018. And yet despite all of this, no one really seems to care. The story barely got any national news coverage. But when the races were reversed and a similar incident happened in Florida, there was a national outcry.
Let's just pause for a second and realize that 267,000 of you like this video. I consider you all irredeemable. Do you know why? Level 1, let's assume that everything he mentions in this video, including this scenario, is exactly as he represents it. I mentioned in a recent video that black people have had at least 1,500 anti-black hate crimes committed against them every year since 1991. That is the most out of any demographic in this country. If I sat in front of you with a tie on like I am right now and read through 7 instances of these hate crimes, I could easily paint the narrative that the biggest problem in America today is white privilege. But somehow one guy spouting off 6 individual instances is enough to prove his point. Level 2, his main gripe seems to be that we hear about these instances when they happen to black people, but never when black people are the perpetrators. And if I grant you that, you want to know what else we don't hear about? The vast majority of murders. That is because they literally happen every single day. So cherry picking 6 examples and assuming that the reason why we didn't hear about them is because the race of the perpetrator is downright bullshit and you have no justification for it. Level 3, and this is where it gets bad. Remember when I said assuming that every situation is exactly as he represents it? Hey, remember this first video that I made about him where he literally got caught lying about the studies and sources that he's using in his own video that would have been debunked if he just finished reading the sources that he used in his own video? Why am I telling you this as if it's leading up to something? Well, no reason. It's cause he did it again. Oh my god, you can't make this. He took this screen grab from the article and put it in his video. I copy and pasted it and came to this article in the AP. Hey, remember where the whole point of the video is that when black people kill white people, no one hears about it, but then when white people kill black people, everyone hears about it? Like, that's the entire fucking purpose of the video? Like, that's the whole reason why he made the fucking video, to prove that black privilege was a thing? So if we read the AP article, here's the sentence where it says Hampton had not had a previously recorded homicide since 2018, the part that he put in his video. Guess what the fuck happens when you scroll down? Longmore, the black person who shot the white people, had needed mental help for nearly a decade, but his family and officials couldn't force him to get the treatment. He had a mental breakdown in 2014, leading to an inpatient hospital stay. This is some more information about the shooter. Notice how we don't have any information about any motive besides the fact that he had severe mental health problems. We especially don't have a motive of race anywhere. Well, let's hop back over to the video and find this other headline. But hold on one second. Keen-eyed viewers, or frankly fucking eyed viewers, could see that it says 3 people dead after gunmen targeted black people in Jacksonville, Florida. Officials say. Guess what the fuck's in the article? This shooting was racially motivated and he hated black people, the sheriff of Jacksonville said. You see why all y'all are irredeemable? He left behind 3 manifestos for why he did the shooting. Even Ron the shithead said that he was targeting people based off of race. And that guy fucking hates African American studies. By the way, he killed only black people in a majority black neighborhood and he had a fucking swastika on his gun. The fuck is this here for then? Oh, and it gets even worse from here, because I'm not gonna talk about your video anymore. If I went through every instance you misrepresented, I could probably blow you the fuck out of the water for 20 minutes. But it seems as though lying is not just something that Daniel does in his spare time when he's trying to rant about how black people are kind of evil. It seems to spill over into the real world and it has really dangerous consequences. Since Daniel over here has been going on a media tour since 2022, getting featured on Fox News, posting videos like this entitled CNN Dissed Me, and even getting to speak with Tucker Carlson based off of a failure to Google something. When I say fail to, I don't mean it was an accidental miscalculation. You don't read half of an AP article and specifically not read the other half that tells you exactly why you're wrong by fucking accident. I mean a stroke of ignorance so irrational it has to be deliberate. JJ, what are you talking about? Spit it out already. You see, in the winter of 2022, there was a class at the University of Chicago that was scheduled to be taught entitled The Problem of Whiteness. This seems to have confused Daniel. I mean, every time he talks about it, he says,
"Now, this class stood out to me because, you know, what is it implying? That there's a problem of being white, or there's a problem of white people or whiteness or whatever?
Just based off that title, what is that suggesting? That there's a problem of white people or whiteness? I mean, it's totally racist, it's totally bizarre.
And you know, college is meant for critical thinking and honest engagement. If you're anything like me and you see a provocatively titled college course, what do? You could email the professor and ask what the class is about. You could go into their office hours and have a discussion with them one-on-one. You could enroll in a class just to see what it's about, and if you don't like it, drop it and contact your advisor. Or pull your professor to the side and talk to them and voice your grievances about the course. What do you think Daniel did? He took to his 50,000 follower Twitter account, cried anti-white racism, and posted the professor's picture along with her email. Then he began the media tour, being featured on Charlie Kirk, Newsmax, and the Daily Wire. Elon Musk responded to him. And you know what's been going on this whole time since? A professor has been receiving death threats. Just pause to read some of these. Mind you, Daniel has already been fired from a news publication over harassment of a coworker. And as a result of this news story, Professor Journey received upwards of 80 threatening emails, and this article was published months ago. She has had to take extraordinary safety precautions just to teach a class on campus normally. And he has yet to stop talking about it to this day. Now question, do you think any of these fuckwits actually Googled what the problem of whiteness would entail? Do you think any of these fuckwits actually realize that the field of whiteness studies has been long since substantiated, and if you have a problem with it, then you can take it up with the literature and the scholars who are responsible for the field? Do you think Daniel ever spoke to her about what the course is actually saying, seeing as he seems to be so confused about whether or not the course is saying there's a problem with white people? They fucking didn't, so I did. When we spoke, I made sure to get a rundown of what the course is generally about. She informed me that the class is about historicizing whiteness as a system of power, authority, and control, and how it structures our world and structural inequality. The class looks at the system of whiteness, not the problem with white people. The title of the course, while provocative, is an artistic reference. It's a callback to W.E.B. Du Bois's famous question, how does it feel to be a problem, he posed in 1903. It also alludes to a documentary in the 60s featuring James Baldwin that discusses how white people created the N-word, therefore it is white people's problem to sort it out. She made clear to me that the subcaption of the course is really the problem with white supremacy. This field of study is not just white people bad, nor is it new. It is backed up by over a century's worth of historical scholarship. Some things that they look at is the fact that white people just assume they are just white and not racialized like everyone else in the society when they are, and they explain how that is. They look at practices like redlining, food deserts, housing discrimination, the effects of white supremacy in law. It also looks at critiques of white feminism, and it touches on the topics of intersectionality. Or fucking any anthropological or sociological course in existence if you're in college. I pulled that much information from simply talking to the professor, and I don't even go to that school. But talking and engaging honestly is never what it was about. It's about propping Daniel up as another face of the culture war while being too fucking stupid or willfully ignorant to actually read past a headline, which is exactly what the fuck he did here. Rebecca is the second professor I've talked to in the last 2 months that are facing threats to their life and safety because of a course that they decided to teach, and the people who are too idiotic to actually look at what they're saying. So as long as people like Daniel exist, I will be here to make goofies out of all of you for endangering the lives of people who are doing their jobs and dedicating way more time and effort into these topics than you ever have for anything in your lives. Daniel, I hope you enjoyed the media tour. Good day.